Why should we not lay up treasures on this
Bring
earth?
all the tithe to the store.
For we brought nothing into the world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. No one can serve two masters. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He who loves silver will not be satisfied. Earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, even the people. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
Hello and welcome to Faith and Finance. This is a program designed to teach the biblical principles of personal money management. It's a program that will help you to understand more clearly how to plan your life in its different segments. In this program, we're talking about planning for retirement. And this one is, of course, a very valuable one to know for every one of us, because at some point in our lives, even if we don't plan to retire at the normal retirement age, we still will reach a time because of advancing age that we will have limitations in our physical and mental abilities, and will need to rely on what we have saved when we were younger. The Bible says in Proverbs 21 verse 5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. So you have to plan, and that's what we're talking about, is planning your finances using biblical principles. And we're using the book called Faith and Finance. And this is a 170-page book that has 12 lessons in it that will help you in these various areas to understand clearly the biblical principles of money management. This book is available from the Adventist Book Center, and you'll see the 800 number where you can contact them on your screen. It's also available in Spanish called Fe y Finanzas. So if you have an interest in reading either of these books, they're available, and hopefully they'll be a benefit to you as you go about your life. Now, there's two important reasons for retirement and to plan for retirement, actually. One is to be able to work part or full-time for others and support God's cause with resources. And the second one is to minimize stress during your later years. It's interesting that now we know that a longer retirement period is predicted. It used to be that people did not have a long time to live during retirement, but today's retirees will likely have 16 to 20 years in retirement, and this covers the time from the cessation of work until the end of their life. In the 1900s, the average age at death was 47. Today, people live well into their 70s and 80s, and even longer. As a matter of fact, the longer retirees live, the more difficult it will be for the federal government to continue paying Social Security. And that's why it's so important that we understand this. In 1960, Social Security issued 2,000 checks regularly for Americans who lived 100 years or more. It's recognized now that by 2010, there will be 100,000 monthly payments issued to centenarians. So you understand people are definitely living much, much longer. We're going to look at some of these things that have caused people to live longer. One of them is a preventive lifestyle. There's been a wide dissemination of information promoting healthy lifestyle. And this is important. We also have modern medical technology. Drugs and vaccines have wiped out former killer diseases such as measles and smallpox and so on. It's an interesting thing to think about retirement, but it's very important that we plan for proper preparation. In the area of preparation, we have to recognize that each stage of life requires preparation for the next stage to be successful. And we've talked about this before. Your life can be divided into three periods: the preparation time, and the working years, and the retirement years. And I'll explain a little bit about that first. The first stage, the preparation time, means that you complete your education. And this is very valuable because the better your education, the more likely you'll have a good income stream to live your life on. Now, you don't have to go to college, but if you don't go to college, you're going to have more of a minimum wage type job and live in lower housing and that kind of thing. But you must plan during that first time for your education, plan for your family, and what kind of a career you'll have. The second stage is the working years. raising and educating your children, buying your home, and other major purchases are made during this time, but it's the most intense time financially. Marriages often break up during this time because financial problems causes great stress for marriages. The third stage that's the retirement years, or the returning years as I've called them, can be an enjoyable time if it's properly planned for. Your home is paid off, your transportation needs are met, there's no lingering debts, and there should be sufficient income to meet your family's needs. Now, I'm going to tell you that studies show how people who are retired, typically from where they get their income. Most retirees have at least this is average now, 27% of their income from Social Security. About 12% of their income comes from their savings and part-time work, for example, home equity. There's other things like that. But you understand that most people depend very heavily upon their Social Security. When making plans for retirement, you should list your income sources. In other words, where will you have your income during that time? Will it be interest from savings? Will it be Social Security? What will it be? Then you can develop your retirement budget to be able to live within your income. You can understand this is one time in your life when you cannot afford to go into debt. We'll talk just briefly about the security of Social Security. You hear all kinds of stories about Social Security, but the interesting thing is that it was not designed to provide for your entire income during retirement. It was designed to be a supplement to your other retirement income. But it accounts today for 50% or more of the retirement income for many families in America. But it's insufficient income to make house payments, to make payments on big credit card debts, and those kinds of things. So you understand the limitations of Social Security also. Social Security covers something 90% of workers in America receive Social Security or will be eligible to receive it. And 40% of Americans now over the age of 65 would be living in poverty if they had no Social Security benefits. It's very valuable to understand how important Social Security is. In 1945, there were approximately 45 people working and contributing to Social Security Trust Fund for every one person that's drawing. So you understand, one guy is drawing and there's 45 people out here working. But in 1995, 50 years later, there's only 3 people working for every one person drawing benefits. And of course, that's a very significant difference. The most interesting thing, and I'm going to tell you about this now because it is very significant, we're told that in 2011, there will be 10,000 people reaching full retirement age in America every day of the week. Now, they may not retire, but this is not early retirement at 62. This will be at age 66. So unless they've lost their income earning potential because of poor investments or investments that went sour, you understand they will be retiring. Now, the interesting part about what we've seen in the economic turndown is that some $14 trillion of American assets, American families' assets, have essentially disappeared. And this is a very, very significant thing. So people who were thinking about retirement at a certain time are now having to postpone that by several months or even years. But we must understand that the people who do continue to work after the big baby boomer group are starting to retire typically are immigrants to America, many who are working at minimum wage and will not be putting huge amounts of money into the Social Security Trust Fund. And that's why the government people are talking more and more about refining and modifying Social Security. They simply will not cut back on benefits. It would be politically suicidal to do that, but they may extend the age of retirement longer or not do cost of living increases, those kinds of things. But something has to be done to allow for this big, huge influx of retirement. By the way, when people lose jobs as they do during downturn, frequently people will take early retirement just to have an income as well during that time. Now I'll explain a little bit to you about retirement ages. If you were born in the period between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is age 66. If you were born after 1960, your full retirement age will be 67. Now, obviously, there's another way to look at it, and that there's an early retirement age, which is 62, and that hasn't fluctuated for some time. But it's important to realize that if you start receiving Social Security benefits at age 62, that is early retirement, when the full retirement age is 66, then the monthly benefit will be cut by 25% for the whole rest of your life, not just until you reach full retirement age. So you have to think twice, do I want 25% of it to be sacrificed? It might be that when you look at all the things, that's valuable to you, but it's important to understand at least that that's what's going to happen if you do retire early. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something that I would recommend very heavily, and that is to supplement your retirement income with a charitable gift annuity. I don't sell charitable gift annuities, but I believe that it is a good instrument not to be philanthropic or to give things away necessarily, but a way to supplement your income. So counselors now typically say it would be very valuable for a person to annuitize the difference between what they know is coming in, what they would like to have come in. For example, if you wanted to have $3,000 a month coming in, which is not a lot, but if you're debt-free and your house is paid off and your kids are educated and so on, you could live on that. I will just tell you that, let's just say your Social Security and your other retirement only brings in, say, $2,500 a month. How are you going to get that other $500 a month? Well, you could work part-time or something like that, but I would suggest thinking about using a charitable gift annuity. How would you get money to fund it? For example, if you could generate $100,000 some way for a charitable gift annuity, then that would generate about $500 a month to you for the rest of your life. And of course, you could also choose a joint annuity, which means the last survivor of the two, if you're married, would receive it until they passed away as well. But here's some ways that you could think about generating some money. For example, most people, after their children are gone, don't need as big a house as they had before. You could downsize your house and use the equity beyond what is needed to buy a new, smaller home to help fund a charitable gift annuity. Or you could use the cash value of life insurance if you have that, and it might be significant to help as well. Another way is to use a portion of your savings, or roll over a 401k, 403b into an IRA or an annuity. And you'll have to work with your tax advisor or your CPA to figure out how to do that. A fourth one is to use funds from a job-related buyout. Some people, as big companies are going out of business, say, if you'll retire early, we'll give you a lump sum. Well, you could put that into a charitable gift annuity and have some guaranteed income during that period of time. So as I said, if you take $100,000, it would probably bring you $500 a month at full retirement age for the rest of your life, which that would make up to the $3,000 that you needed in my illustration. Now, I'm going to share with you what an annuity is and what it isn't, and what kind I would recommend. In the commercial market, an annuity is an insurance product that is designed to provide you with an income for life. The insurance company guarantees that periodic payments will be made to you in a certain dollar amount. But there are other things to think about. One of them is a variable annuity. These are actually securities, and they're regulated by the SEC. The income from variable annuities is subject to market fluctuation, so there's an investment risk and a possible loss of principal. I would not recommend a variable annuity to someone who's thinking about retirement income. This is very valuable for you to understand. People could say, well, I thought I was going to get $500 a month, and now it's down to $200 a month, and what am I supposed to do? Well, the bottom line is don't get a variable annuity, and that will answer your question. Variable annuities are not recommended, since the purpose for an annuity in the context of retirement is to guarantee a fixed income for life. So I'm going to give you a couple of financial goals for Christian as they retire, and then you can see why guaranteeing an income would be valuable. Two considerations to think about for Christian retired couples. First is to have guaranteed income for life that will provide for the family's needs. The second is to have a plan to return any unneeded assets to God during life or upon the death of the survivor. Now, early in these other programs that we've talked about, I've mentioned Genesis 1:1, where it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If God is the creator, He is also the owner. So listen to this for a quick estate planning statement for you. Here it is. Since God is the owner, when I'm finished with it, what should I do with it? Bottom line is simple. Give it back to Him. And that's not typically practiced, but when we talk about estate planning, you'll see how to do that and still to provide for your family and for yourself. But when we want to talk about a gift annuity, this is a contract under which a charity, in return for a transfer of cash or marketable securities or other assets, agrees to pay a fixed amount of money to one or two individuals for their lifetime. The gift annuity is a helpful tool in regard to helping us manage in that way. A person who receives payments is called an annuitant or a beneficiary, and the annuity payments are not called income because a portion of each payment is considered to be part of the tax-free return of the donor's gift, which is spread over equal payments over the life expectancy of the annuitant. And what about reverse mortgages? People frequently ask about reverse mortgages, and reverse mortgages are touted on television and by many people who offer them through their business or profession. But the reverse mortgage is a way that you could supplement your income during retirement, but it has this downside. The lender typically will give the homeowner some money in exchange for a mortgage against their house. That allows the homeowner to stay in their home for a little bit longer time and put a portion of their home equity into cash. But there are problems. And what I want to do is to help you understand how this works so that you can determine whether or not you want to become involved. In a reverse mortgage, the money can come either in a lump sum, in a monthly payment for as long as the homeowner lives in the home, or in larger monthly payments during a set period of time, or during some combination of these. This is important that we can see. There are some basic HUD requirements for a reverse mortgage. And the reason is because people need to understand what they're doing when they do it. And typically, I would not recommend it for most people. But here are the basic HUD requirements. The borrower and the spouse, if there is a spouse, must both be 62 years old or older. They must own their home outright or have such a low mortgage that the balance that they get as part of their reverse mortgage and pay that off with the closing costs from the proceeds of the reverse mortgage. Number 3, they have to live in the house as their primary residence. And number 4, they must be able to pay their own taxes, their insurance, and maintenance on the house. They must receive counseling, number 5, from an approved source. In other words, you can't just go in and get a reverse mortgage. HUD says you have to go to an approved counselor and let them know, why it's happening. Now, there are some advantages. It frees up some of the equity in your home. The owner can remain in the residence. But typically, when you need that, you get all this process, and then you don't really end up living there very long. Here's some disadvantages. High closing costs, up to 10%. Now you say, well, I don't have the money. Well, of course, that's taken as part of the mortgage against your house. It also ties up equity in your house and the balance of the equity. Typically at full retirement age, a person can only get about 1/3 of their equity out, but you can't have any other loan against your house, and so that means 2/3 of your equity is stuck. You also have to continue to pay taxes and insurance and maintain the property. And one of the worst things about a reverse mortgage is that most of them are variable rate interest. That means it doesn't trigger to the economy or the prime rate or anything like that. It can be put up at the whim, if you please, of the lender, which means that they can go you up 0.5%, every once in a while if they want to or if they say they need it. To me, this is very, very incredible because that also goes against the value of your house. Once that you get out of your home, then anybody who has any interest in the house has to pay the mortgage off in order to take possession of the house. And so you have not only all the payments you've had out, but at the variable rate of interest, plus the closing costs, plus the payoff of any other house that you may have had. So I would only recommend it in unique circumstances, and most of the time it would not be a good idea. What do people usually spend their retirement money on? Well, studies show that 32.5% of retirees' money goes for housing. Now listen, I've been talking in these programs over and over again how valuable it would be if your home were paid off at the time of retirement. That should be a basic prerequisite. We also talk about transportation as a very big one. That's about 13%, and there's others. But if your home is paid off, you can live that much cheaper during retirement, and this is important. We should also plan for health care, and I'll mention to you how that can happen. Most of us understand that there are 3 basic prerequisites to retirement. You know you're ready for retirement, not just when you're tired of working, but when you are debt-free, including your home mortgage, you have an income stream to provide for your family's necessities, and you have adequate health insurance. This is very important to know those. I mean, I know people that are retired that meet none of those requirements. They're able to survive somehow, but it's not a pleasant time. And you must understand that during retirement time, your income is cut back from what it used to be, and you're not going to be able to do very much at all if you still have a home mortgage. And that's very significant to understand. I would also tell you that at age 65, if you've been involved in the Social Security system, Medicare insurance is available at a nominal cost. However, Medicare doesn't cover all health costs, so most families must get some kind of supplemental or gap insurance to fill that additional needs. And for more information about that, there's a good website, irs.gov or the medicare.gov, and you can go there and find out about the health insurance. Just because you no longer have to pay a mortgage or tuition doesn't mean that your expenses will be really low during retirement. Remember that pensions don't always keep up with inflation, and Medicare doesn't cover all of our health care costs. So these are important things to know about it. So I want to give you a few tips for saving for retirement. The first thing that I would share with you is list your goals and your dreams. For example, I would like to travel. That's one of the things you might say. Or here's what I would like to do. And you list those out. Here's what I'd like to do during that time. Then you prioritize your financial goals, setting an achievable amount and a realistic time to accomplish each item. Now, I tell people, if you're debt-free and you have your Social Security and something from your retirement pension or whatever like that, your retirement accounts, and a gift annuity, probably you'll do just fine. You don't need millions of dollars saved up. But you might even put a picture of things that you dream about, maybe going on a mission trip to help build a church somewhere, or to have a little home in a certain place that you've always wanted to live during those retirement years. Those are goals that you could do. But I would say you must save regularly. Saving for retirement isn't as hard as it seems, but it does demand action, and the earlier you do it, the better. I can give you a few ideas about savings. You can save from inheritance that you might receive, gift money from a parent, or a yard sale. I ask people frequently, how many of you have stuff that you think you'll never use again as long as you live? And almost all adults will raise their hand on that. They've saved stuff, they've collected stuff over the years. You can liquidate some of these things and put that toward your savings. The Bible indicates a real unusual situation about retirement. It's the story of the rich fool in Luke, the 12th chapter. And this is an amazing story because the man said, well, you know, I have plenty of goods laid up for many years. I think I'll take my ease, eat, drink, and be merry. And of course, the Bible talks about him as the rich fool. And the Bible asks the question, what if your life were to end tonight? Well, whose then will all these things be that you've saved up? Well, people say, well, that guy is the rich fool because he had to build bigger barns to put all of his stuff in it. But it's an actual fact that in America, nearly 80% of Americans cannot park their car in their own garage. And the reason is simple, it's just stuffed with junk. Another interesting thing is that one of the fastest growing businesses, small businesses in America, is the you store it business. All these little places with garage doors on them. And I understand from talking with people that own those things that many times what's inside is not worth 1 month's rent on the place where it is stored. But anyway, you can understand, have a yard sale, liquidate some of your stuff. These will be helpful things for you to do. You can save, for example, the former car payment after your vehicle is sold and paid off in full. Continue to put that in savings for your next car or for your retirement. A lot of times when I counsel people, they're about to lose their car and yet they're paying $170 for cable and high-speed internet and all these things. We can live without those if we have to. It may take some sacrifice, but of course it's possible to do that if you really want to, and I can see what you can benefit from that. Another one is to use direct deposit. That means have an amount deducted each pay period. It goes automatically, can be transferred into your bank or credit union where you can have a savings account. If you don't see it, you won't miss it, and better still, you won't spend it. These are important things to know about. There's another thing I would share with you, and that is part-time employment. Most people will actually rust out before they would wear out. The longer you work and you stay active, the longer you will live. So part-time employment can actually be a good benefit to a retirement plan. And I would just share with you that working in that area, part-time employment can be of value to you, to supplement your income, to stay active in society, and to be valuable to yourself to have that additional income. So I'm going to tell you, plan on part-time employment just to stay active if you want to. That can supplement your income, but be able to live without that if necessary so that you can still have a pleasant time during retirement. It's very important that we understand that there's benefits of part-time work, supplements the income, helps keep the brain and body active, and helps give a feeling of usefulness and purpose in your life. So these things are valuable for us to remember. Retirement can be an enjoyable part of your life. Remember, it's the last stage of your life. You need to make plans to start giving it away, the assets that you have. And we'll talk about that when we talk about estate planning. The Faith and Finance programs are designed to help you at each stage of your life to put together a plan so that it can be beneficial and you can live the important part of your life that's valuable to you. It would be far better to die of hard work on some home or foreign mission than to rust out because of inaction. And I think that's going to be a valuable thing for all of us to know. The longer we can stay active, the better off we will be and the happier we'll be in being able to help others. And I think that it's important for us to know that this stage of our life is not a sad time. It can be a happy time, probably the happiest time, but you must plan for it. I've talked with people that were about to file bankruptcy, even in retirement, and if you plan for it, that really wouldn't need to happen. It can be a pleasant time for you to live and to be of service to other people and to enjoy your life as an abundant part of God's plan for you. So I hope that God will bless you as you plan for your retirement. Read about it carefully in the book, in the chapter about retirement, and you'll find some other tips that will be helpful to you.